You're listening to the Back Home Network, presented by Home Field Apparel.
And welcome, Hoosier fans, to another victorious episode of the Assembly Call, as today your Indiana Hoosiers defeated Bethune Cookman by the score of 101-49. Improving Indiana's record to 2-0 on the season. I'm your host, the coach, Brian Tonsoni, here with Ryan Phillips and Andy Bottoms, and we'll break it down for you here on this edition of the Assembly Call IU Postgame Show. But let's start the show the way we start every show, and that is with our banner moment. And for me, I thought it really started in the first half after Indiana got off to a 7-0 start based on TJD's great hustle and offensive rebounding early. And then the zone defense that was played by Bethune Cookman kind of slowed Indiana's offense down. And after 6 or 7 minutes, Indiana actually trailed in the basketball game. Then the banner moment occurred. The second unit came in, got some solid defensive stops. And then I thought Geronimo and Renew, their play inside the zone. You need guards to get them the ball, but they moved the ball, found some shooters. Geronimo with a nice turnaround jumper in the lane. And the next thing you know, Indiana had a 15-0 run and really put the game away at that point. And then when the starters come back in, they were ready to roll and took over from there. And you saw Trace Jackson-Davis have a nice night. You had Miller Kopp had a nice night, shooting night, and other players filled in around. And then the second half, the score at the halftime was 49-23. And so kudos to that second unit. That's 2 games in a row where they brought the energy and they brought the juice, and I think that's going to speak volumes for this Indiana basketball team. It's just nice. Those two, the third and fourth post players, Renew and Geronimo, I thought had outstanding games tonight. They were not going to lead in the stat categories, but I thought their effort and their movement inside that zone allowed for the zone offense to find its footing, which really then got Indiana going. And I think the zone offense forced Indiana to shoot some threes, and they got in a rhythm. And then when the man defense appeared later in the game, they were able to still shoot a very nice percentage for your Indiana Hoosiers. So our banner moment today, as always, is brought to you by our friends at Home Field Apparel, now in their 6th season of sponsoring the Assembly Call. And their second season, well, I should probably play the
Home Field Apparel, wear one for the team.
I need an exhibition game, but nonetheless, exhibition or regular season, our banner moment is always brought to you by Home Field Apparel, now in the 6th season of sponsoring the Assembly Call, and their second as a presenting sponsor for the Back Home Network. As you surely know by now, Home Field has the largest collection of vintage IU apparel that you'll find anywhere, with beloved logos like 2 different versions of the Bison. And if you support other college teams or have people in your life who do, Home Field probably has something for them too. Their product line now extends to more than 120 different schools with unique vintage logos for all of them. I know I have about 47, maybe 50 items, a few more on the way. It is birthday month for Coach, so I'm buying myself Home Field for the birthday. But no matter what you buy, you know it'll be comfortable. Colors will last through many washings, and you're supporting an Indiana-based company that came through the Kelley School of Business. What could be better than that? So go to homefieldapparel.com and use our promo code HOME for 15% off your entire first order. That's promo code HOME for 15% off. Once again, the website is homefieldapparel.com. Wear one for the team. All right, and now it's time to move the ball, find the open man, and get some opening thoughts from the rest of our team.
The best of you sports coaching, you know that we got 'em. When it comes to analytic trends, you know he can spot 'em. For first-class bracketology, if you want the top, you gotta go bottoms. If you want the top, you gotta go bottoms. If you want the top, you gotta go bottom.
Andy, what's your bottom line in tonight's nice victory?
Well, I mean, it's a shame that Jared can't be here to celebrate IU taking 40% of its field goal attempts from 3-point range and making 10 of them, no less. Like you said, that was the shot that Bethune Cookman was willing to give IU, and they really took him in rhythm. And so, had some guys step up and knock him down. Miller Kopp had some great ones, and both Hood Schifino and Xavier Johnson did a good job looking for him. A lot of cases where I know you talk about this, Coach, sometimes that one more passing to try to, pass up a good shot to get a great one. That led to a lot of those 3-point looks. And, exciting to see this team shoot the ball well. They did so from the free throw line as well, 21 of 22. Just a lot of great stats to look at over the course of the game. 27 assists on 35 made field goals. A lot of things that tell you the offense was really clicking, and defensively, the team had a little lapse for a segment of the second half, which, given how much they were up, is probably to be expected. But overall, gave up 0.7 points per possession in both the first and the second half.
So Indiana wins 101-49.
Analyzing players, finding every wrinkle. He hasn't ever hosted, never lifted a finger. He's got all the
Well, let me quickly add just one thing about this.
Dude just interrupted his own jingle.
So with that result, I'm quite interested in seeing what Ryan's rant might be after this kind of victory. Ryan, take it away.
Guys, can we just take a second and, kick back and be happy that Indiana basketball is kind of fun to watch again? These first 4 games, including the 2 exhibitions, have been enjoyable basketball. I'd say that it's an interesting change over the last 6 years or so. The way they play, the talent on the floor, it's just different. It's completely different. And it's been really, really fun to watch. What I wanted to talk about was Miller Kopp. He just looks like a different guy this year. I mean, he really looks like a different guy. It's not skill or anything like that. He just looks more comfortable in his own skin, and he looks more comfortable on the floor, the way he's moving, where he's finding his shots. I don't know if it's comfort with his role or what specifically, but he just looks like more relaxed and not as frantic and sort of struggling to find what he needs to do. And I think that's showing up obviously on the court. I mean, he was 4 of 6 from 3 tonight, and it might just be that he doesn't have to do as much this year, and maybe that's just settled him in. But it looks like he's done some work, in the offseason, not only to get in shape, but it looks like, again, he just seems more comfortable and maybe happier, and it's showing. And obviously it's early, but I would just say that the guy looks comfortable in his skin for the first time I've seen him since being an IU, since he's been at IU.
Ryan, you bring up some interesting points. I want to throw it back to Andy, too. I think one of the storylines from the early games is the confidence and the swagger that this Indiana team plays with. We could go down everyone on the roster and find some mistakes that they made, and some players played really well. Maybe some players didn't play up to their expectations, but Indiana still won a game where this was a 1 seed versus 16. Bethune Cookman is in a league that's going to be a 16 seed. You expect 1 seeds to win like Indiana did today, and we all know that 16 seeds have pulled upsets or kept games close for a half, or and then the game gets maybe into the last 10 minutes before it gets to be an extended situation. And I know this is regular season, but Bethune Cookman had all 5 starters coming back. So that might be a team that wins that league and gets placed in a 16. I just think they're playing with confidence and swagger, which will help them overcome some adversity when they play Xavier and they play some of these teams that are a little bit tougher. You saw Hood Schifino did not shoot the ball well. X didn't shoot the ball well. But, boy, the point guards played excellent. I thought besides the shooting numbers, they played excellent.
Particularly in the second half, Coach.
Yeah, and so I think that's something, too. You mentioned they're just comfortable. They feel okay. They understand what they need to do, and the pressure isn't there to be perfect. You know that you can have a bad 2-minute segment and bounce back. Andy, your thoughts on just the way Indiana is seeming to be playing the game of basketball this year early as compared to other early starts or other seasons.
Yeah, I think a big key to that, particularly in the first half, got out to a good start, let Bethune Cookman get back in, and I think they might have led 10-9 at one point. It was 12-10 at the under 4 timeout, or at the first media timeout rather. And you started to see some of the bench guys come in, and they just have continued both through the exhibition season and in the first 2 games of the season, really given a great spark. It was I think 17-2 run over the next couple segments between media timeouts, and a lot of that was with the bench guys on there. I think Hood-Schifino and Xavier Johnson, they continue to leave one of those guys out there with that group. But the energy that they're able to bring on both ends of the floor has really allowed them to play with that confidence and be able to have a little lull and then insert a couple guys, and it just, things pick right back up, and really went on a nice run at that point with those guys in the game. A few good plays will probably hit in some of the meaningful moments, but I thought that stretch was really key. And even same thing in the first half. They gave up a couple layups to start, or in the second half, they gave up a couple layups in the first 2 possessions, and then they ripped off, they scored each of the next 6 possessions, scored 15, 16 points in that stretch. And so they're so explosive offensively that it seems unlikely that they're going to get into any kind of prolonged lull during a game, and that they can really bounce back quickly and keep a lot of pressure on. I think that gives them some of that confidence and being able to be that explosive, and defense led to that offense in a lot of cases.
Yeah, and I want to go back to the shot doctor, because shooting's the name of the game tonight with the Indiana Hoosiers, both from the 3-point line and from the free throw line. Your thoughts on some of the shots we were talking before we got on the air about Galloway's shot. We know Miller has the best form, and he hit tonight too, but Indiana shot the ball confidently and it went in, and the free throw percentage as well. Your thoughts on Indiana's shooting performance tonight, Ryan?
Yeah, guys. If you haven't seen the box score, Indiana hit 21 of 22 free throws. When was the last time that happened? I mean, decades? It feels that way. 95.5% from the free throw line. I did say not to, read too much into the opener. But I will say from the 3-point perspective, it's clear. I mean, I've tweeted about this. Trey Galloway's shot form is completely different, and it's a massive improvement. I said all offseason, don't expect anything from Trey. It would take a massive change to fix his shot. Well, it looks like he did it, and I'm not expecting him to shoot 40% or anything like that, but he's going to make shots with this form. It's a different form. It's much calmer. He finishes high. It's smoother, all of that, all the things you need for a quality shot. And he shoots it confidently, which he never did over his first 2 seasons. So over the last 2 seasons. But I will say Jalen Hood-Schifino 0 for 5. He's not a 3-point shooter. He does not look like a 3-point shooter. As far as shots in general, I don't love him as a standing catch and shoot guy. I really like what I see off the bounce from him, though. It's a different shot. It's really odd how off of a dribble or two, he can, even off a step back, his shot is much smoother than if he catches it and goes up. And so that's something to work on. He's a freshman. He was not a strong shooter at Montverde last year. So it's going to take time. But his lack of ability to knock down threes, which, again, could get better. It's early in the season. But that's something to watch, because if they overplay on Xavier Johnson, overplay on some other guys, he's going to have to maybe start knocking out some shots because people are going to play him to drive. He can do so much on the floor that it's not like that hurts you too much, but it's something that, is worth watching, and it's a hole in his game he needs to figure out.
I thought some of the ones he took almost because he felt like he had to.
Yeah, I agree. And he passed a few up that he probably
didn't really want to. Yeah. And the positive side of that is you look at him and you're like, he didn't certainly had the worst game that we've seen him play of the handful, and he still ends up with 8 points, 8 assists, and 5 rebounds. So I guess a good floor for him. But yeah, I just thought he didn't look as comfortable or as in rhythm shooting those shots as even a Galloway did, which Coach Marlowe literally begging us in the chat to make sure that we talk about Trey. So kudos to you, Ryan, for making sure that happened.
Yeah, I thought that he was hunting shots, and his shot selection more than his shot form, Ryan, I would say, because I think he showed that he could hit some threes in previous games, but he's got to be a little more open than maybe some other players too now. I think but
it's
there's
still
also
a little slow. It's still his release is still a little slow, but the form is completely different. I mean, completely.
Yes, and that's he's got to learn shot selection but there's some confidence there too, some that he wants to take those shots. So yeah, I didn't think he had a great offensive game tonight, but boy, those assists and the way he finds Kopp in transition is just incredible to watch. We all want more pace, and I think that's the last storyline of segment one is your guys' thoughts about how Indiana's playing in pace, and right now it's easy because you're getting stops and steals and going out against inferior opponents. I just hope that continues on rebounds and even makes to push that pace. But we'll go back to Ryan, and then we'll end segment one with you, Andy. How do you feel early on with Indiana in transition offense?
I do think they're trying to push it up. That's clearly been a mandate from the coaching staff. If you look, every time they, even the bigs get a rebound, they start to push. And so they're looking to do that. I think some of the over-the-top passes they're making are a little too much. And some of them have worked. And they only turned the ball over 13 times tonight in a game where they scored 101 points. So those games get loose at the end. And, there were a couple offensive foul type turnovers and Malik traveled once he's trying to make an aggressive offensive play and he travels. Okay, fine. You're fine with those. You're not fine with the over the top stuff. You're not fine with getting it stolen in play. But still, I like the effort. I like the idea of pushing. I just think they need to sharpen up because against Xavier, you make those mistakes going over the top. It's really going to hurt you. North Carolina, you do that. Arizona, Kansas, those are really going to hurt you. So I like that they're trying to push. I like that they're trying to speed it up. You just have to be more, mindful of not throwing passes into harm's way.
You don't want to turn the ball over just to be a fast pace.
Yeah. A fast turnover is still a turnover.
Yeah. Andy, your thoughts on the transition offense of the Hoosiers? It's coming simple right now, but I kind of like what I see.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting. That's one of the things as you look ahead to some of these other games with tougher competition, what that looks like. To your point, kind of easy to play at that pace when you're, forcing a lot of turnovers. Fast break points 33-3 over the course of the game. Part of that forcing 19 turnovers. A number of those, were live ball turnovers. Really to be able to get out and run, and especially dominating the glass like they did in this game, making outlets, getting the ball down the floor quickly. I think those are things that, given the athleticism that this team has, and while the shooting was great tonight, it won't always be that way this season, and that's a way that IU can take advantage and play to some of its strengths to really get some easy buckets that way. So I think conceptually that needs to continue. Whether it'll be as successful as it was, tonight, given the opponent, I don't know. But it's another thing when you have that many playmakers out there. To Ryan's point, they let Renews brought the ball up. Some of the big guys were doing that as well. But if you think about those core lineups with Huchifino and Xavier Johnson both out there, just another case where having multiple playmakers and ball handlers really helps you, because you're not so reliant on, I've got to get it to this one guy, to really get the break started. And even when one of those two is playing with the Tamar Bates or with the Trey Galloway, you've got multiple guys who want to get out and run. So I think that'll be a staple of what this team tries to do. It just remains to be seen how effective it can be when the competition ratchets up.
Go ahead, Ryan.
Yeah, one last thing I wanted to mention is, just before we get out of segment one, is just this team is so deep, guys. I mean, they have 12 different players scored tonight, and the guys who come off the deep bench, CJ Gunn and Caleb Banks come in the game and look like college basketball players. Now they look like young freshman college basketball players, but that's the kind of guy Indiana was relying on the second unit for years. Guys who looked like freshmen and who were struggling, and you had to make do with what they could give you. This team is so deep and talented that Malik Renew, who has been amazing, only got 9 points tonight. I mean, it was a good game for him. He looked great out there. But he turned in 9 points. And the reason why he turned in 9 points is because George Geronimo had 11. Trey Galloway had 10. Tamar Bates had 5. Across the board, they're able to put the ball in the hoop in a way we have not seen from an IU team in a long time. Even those Big Ten championship teams were not crazy deep. This is a deep, talented team where these guys all look like they belong. And we haven't seen a team like this in a long time at Indiana. They all look like they can play. And some of these guys, who can play, like Banks and Gunn, probably aren't going to play much. based on what we're seeing. But those guys can play.
There's an offensive sense to the guys who come off the bench.
And a basketball IQ.
And a basketball IQ. When they pick up some strength, they pick up the defensive concepts, they might see a little more run. But it's also there in case of an injury or maybe a second half development, and you can play a little bit deeper. That it's just good news to watch Banks do what Banks did tonight, and CJ Gunn with his quick trigger. But coming up, as we continue our breakdown of Indiana's 101-49 victory over Bethune Cookman, I'll point out today's meaningful moment you might have missed, and then we'll go inside the numbers to highlight the most important statistical notes from the game. You're listening to Assembly Call. Stick with us.
This is Verdell Jones. What's better than an epic buzzer beater, the full court dribble, and perfectly placed pass to set it all up? And, of course, celebrating with Hoosier Nation afterwards. So join Jared, Andy, Ryan, and Coach on the Assembly Call after every IU basketball game. Go Hoosiers.
You're listening to the Assembly Call IU postgame show. I'm the coach, Brian Tonsoni, here with Andy Bottoms and Ryan Phillips, and we're breaking down Indiana's victory over Bethune Cookman, 101-49. It's time for today's meaningful moment that you might have missed, brought to you by our friends at Hoosier Ticket Project, where they help individuals and families experience Indiana University athletic events in person for the first time through the generosity of alumni and fans. To learn more about how you can donate money or extra tickets to help create meaningful moments for other IU fans, visit HoosierTicketProject.org. That's HoosierTicketProject.org.
Meaningful moments that you might have missed.
So tonight I'll start out, and I think Andy has a couple of moments that he would like to point out too. I thought Indiana's offense got started a little bit earlier than this, but I really like the set at 10:49, the zone lob play where you have a wing cutting to the basket, and you have the two inside guys setting screens. And I think it went to Renew, and he didn't try to slam it or shoot in the air. He caught it in an awkward position, stopped, bounced, and went back up. But that meaningful moment for me was a couple things. It was a set called by a coach. The zone offense was not great early on. Indiana was in an okay position. I think it was close to 18-12. A little worry sets into the fans when it's an 11-minute mark and you're only up, a few points against a Bethune Cookman. But I thought that showed that Coach Woodson, one of the things we've talked about is at times he's got to put his finger on it and not just run general offense or let the point guard call things. I really thought that play settled in, and that soon followed then a transition three for Geronimo from a nice feed from Bates, and then all of a sudden Galloway found with some of that one more passing that Andy you were talking about, got some threes, and next thing you know, the offense just blossomed, and it went into that 15-0 run that really pushed the game to where it needed to be. But I think that was good execution by the players, and it was a really good call there by Coach Woodson. The other one that I liked is if you could read lips, Coach Woodson late, Geronimo makes a pass that was deflected when C.J. Gunn was in the game, and Geronimo, being the veteran, is trying to tell C.J. Gunn he's got to cut closer and come meet the basketball, which probably was true. But then the camera turns to Woodson, and he goes, Geronimo, you can't make that play. And basically said, Geronimo, don't blame it on the freshman. That was on you, and that's a 40-point game. And that's just good coaching. You are going to continuously coach regardless of what the score is, what the time is. And I like those moments, especially as a coach, because you do a lot of that. And you get those guys like CJ and Geronimo in trying new things and new positions, and you got to teach them for those moments at Xavier, against Arizona, against Kansas, where they need to make really good decisions. So those were a couple of my meaningful moments. Andy, you have a couple others.
Yeah, the couple that I had were kind of sandwiched around some of the plays that you mentioned in the first half. Both both from Malik Renew. There was a play where they got in the zone. The size of the hole in the middle of the 2-3 zone that Bethune Cookman was running was massive. But Renew gets the ball, smartly just turns, knows exactly where he wants to go with it, hits Geronimo kind of in the short corner / dunker spot there, gets an easy bucket that way. Just a smart play in terms of knowing where he wanted to go with the ball. As soon as he got it, pretty much turned and passed in one motion. And the other was on the second of Galloway's 3-pointers. Renew kind of caught the defense getting back a little bit late. And so the wing guy trying to get down to his spot on the baseline set a great screen, even kind of alerted, I forget who it was that made the pass, even kind of alerted them to get the ball over to Galloway. He sets a screen to keep anybody from getting close to him, and he drains a second 3-pointer. Just some high IQ plays from Renew. Had a good double team that led to an easy basket where he threw it down to Galloway for a dunk in the second half. Just a lot of really smart basketball plays. And when you talk about it, it's easy to say physically that he and Hood-Schifino don't look like freshmen, but I think from an IQ standpoint, they don't really think like a typical freshman either.
Yeah.
So I thought just a couple really, really smart plays from him that may have gone unnoticed, but led to a couple baskets and open shots.
Andy, I had that written down, and when you said you had a couple, Malik, I was hoping that you would share that flare screen.
Oh, it's good. I didn't want to let you down. So
no, you didn't. You saw him call for it and then set it, and with that big body, no one's getting through it, and that's good recognition. And a lot of times freshmen are out there trying to prove that they belong out there, and a lot of times it's with a big block, or it's shooting the ball or doing things like that. A lot of times young kids think that they need to score or have stats. That was an unselfish play that if you missed it, it was just fantastic, a fantastic screen. I love flare screens in the old motion game, but that was early on, and I'm not sure if they were in man or zone at that time, but you're right. It was early in transition, and he just went and saw the opportunity and helped a teammate get better. And when you have a bunch of guys that do that, which reminds me, Andy, another thing is if you get a chance to see Hood-Schifino in person, and I'm not sure you can pick it up on TV extremely well. When he catches an outlet, he scans the floor. Immediately looks for the opportunities in transition, and it's hard to see but you got to look for it. And when you look for it, it's just beautiful. He scans, and the one handoff 3 to Kopp was a perfect example of it. He saw Miller Kopp on the wing starting to cut a little bit high, and he just dribbled his guy a little bit lower and took the defense out and flipped it to Miller for a 3 because Miller had hit some shots. So there's a freshman with composure, knowing that you want to continue to get your shooters shots. And those are two freshmen that are physically ready to play and mentally ready to play. So now it's time to go into the numbers. We've already thrown out a lot of numbers in some of our previous segments and stuff, but the shooting numbers for me just stood out tremendously. But I think, Ryan, you mentioned it with the points. And there's more to basketball than points, but Geronimo having 11, Galloway 10, and Renew 9 in that second unit, just coming out doing really good things to spark the team. Is a number that'll stand out to me. And another number that we'll point out is 14 assists between your two main ball handlers, 6 for Xavier and 8 for Hood-Schifino. They had some plays where you kind of cringed a little bit with some turnovers, but you want your guards to make some turnovers because if they're not pushing the envelope, they're not getting assists. So I'll take 14-5, almost 3-1 assist to turnover ratio. And another thing, they combined for 9 rebounds. And Coach Woodson said in his press conference the game before that they needed better guard rebounding. And so I think when the staff is going to go back and look at some of these numbers, those things are going to stick out. Ryan, any numbers for you?
Well, just mentioning the rebounding, I mean, a bunch of guys got a number of them. You had Tamar had 2, Logan Duncombe later had 4, Trey Galloway 3, Jordan Geronimo 4, Malik 4, Race Thompson 4, TJD 6, all offensive rebounds, by the way, for Trace Jackson Davis. Didn't have a single defensive rebound. And then you said 9 from the guards, which and had 5 and Xavier had 4. So they're really balanced. I mean, that's the other thing about we've seen from this team. And again, I don't know if this changes when they play better competition, how much this changes, obviously. But it's just been a balanced effort from everybody. I mean, Trace Jackson-Davis had 21 points tonight on 9 of 10 shooting and played 21 minutes. Your best player, your All-American, played 21 minutes and you scored 101 points. I mean, that just tells you that this team, I get it, it's Bethune-Cookman, but it's the same trend we saw. Other than the three-point shots, this is the same trend we saw in the opening game. There's just balance to this roster, and at all levels, everybody can move and defend to some degree. I mean, there are some guys who are better than that than others, but everybody can move and defend. Everybody can rebound. They all have the basketball IQ. They all can score. Again, there's degrees of this. Some guys are better at it than others, but this team is balanced across the board and everyone does a lot of things.
There's not many one-dimensional players.
No, and there's not a whole lot of holes either.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's so important, Ryan, that you got guys who can play offense and defense and transition, and obviously we've got to see it against better competition. But, boy, it's nice to have those guys that can – and C.J. Gunn comes in, Caleb Banks come in. They did some nice things, and even Logan Duncombe showed some nice things. It's like it's just nice to – it's just nice to see, which brings me again to, I think, another storyline that we've talked about all offseason and preseason, and we'll go to you, Andy. The rotation seems to be a 9-man rotation, not 5 and 5. He does get to 1 point guard with the 4 guys in the second unit, but that second unit's played really, really well. There's not that drop-off that there was that bothered us.
You don't dread the second unit coming in.
You almost want it to come in, right? You like, hurry up and get them in the way they're playing. But the rotation is one thing, and then, again, playing early games and resting your veterans. I think those are 2 storylines that we must talk about, because I think that's improvement from where Coach Woodson was last year.
Yeah, 100%. I think, watching what he's doing with being able to keep one of X and Hood-Schifino on the floor really at all times when the game's been competitive, I think has been an important development. And to the extent that you can do that, I think what you guys said is true. The drop-off is not nearly what it felt like it was a year ago, but you're also giving those guys a chance to really get used to playing together as a unit. And I think we saw that group get used to playing together as a unit as well last year, and you didn't really like the results. But in this case, what we've seen from the combination of Renew and Geronimo and in the front court has been really solid. You've got Renew, who's scoring in a variety of different ways, and Geronimo really these last couple games, more so than even in the exhibition games, has just been doing all the dirty work stuff that he's been known for. Stepped up and hit a couple of jump shots today, but realistically, his made some great contributions defensively and rebounding, and just using his athleticism to his advantage. You're getting a bit better version of Galloway from a shooting perspective. And with him, Bates, and whichever of X and Hood-Schifino you've got a few guys who are comfortable making plays with the ball in their hand and trying to pick out matchups that you might be able to take advantage of. So I think that part of it's great. And to what we talked about so often last year, we ran some of these guys into the ground early in the season for some of these games. You haven't seen that. It's only 2 games in, but not only have you been able to give them some rest, other guys have had success in the experience that they've had off the bench to build some confidence for those situations should they be called upon in a game. So it's not just that guys are playing at the end of the bench. It's that those guys are coming in and playing well and being able to get some reps and build some success, build some confidence. Because in a game like tonight, everybody played well. You played 9 guys in the first half, all 9 of them scored. First 12 guys that were in the game from a scholarship player perspective all got in the scoring column. I think all had at least 4 points. So a lot of good things there that hopefully they can just continue to build upon. And if you get to the Xavier game and you got to call on these guys to play a little bit more, some of the starters, they're certainly more rested than they probably would have been a year ago at this time.
Thank goodness.
The common theme that I'm hearing from you guys too is the depth is nice too, because sometimes players have off nights or an off week or something, and now you don't have to feel like every player has to do things. Yeah. So Ryan, a couple guys that we know are going to be okay. One we know for sure is going to be okay, and the other one we hope has a breakout year. Played all right tonight. I thought Race did race things. I thought Tamar played better tonight, and they said he's still fighting a little bit of a back injury, but they didn't play great, and yet Indiana scored 101 points. So any concern about those guys not playing up to their capabilities yet, or just way too early to tell?
I thought Tamar was good in the opener. I thought tonight, he had a couple silly things like an offensive foul when he drove in and stuff. I just think offensively he wasn't. I like his activity defensively. I think it's an improvement on last year. I like, Tamar wound up with 4 assists.
Right.
He's moving the ball. He's involved. It's just a matter of getting that shot in. Really like to see him knock down some threes. He was 1 of 4. I thought the one he took that he made in the corner was perfect. I mean, it was right on line, but nothing but net. Just a great step into it 3. I think he can do that, and I want to see that more. One thing I want to see more is him going past that first level on the 3-point line when guys are closing out to him and finishing at the rim. He's a great finisher. So I want to see more of that. But with Race, I know he hasn't looked great to start the season. I thought he was okay tonight. I thought his activity level was up from the opener. What I'll say, though, is Race has a long track record of being a very good college basketball player. I think it evens out. I don't know what's going on. Maybe he's just having trouble getting into the season, or maybe he's tired. Something we don't know about. The trend there is going to be positive. It's hard for me to see Race all of a sudden not being effective. He was not effective at the end of last season, and I think that was because he had played so much and played so hard for so long because the team relied on him so much that I think he was done at the end of the year. I think he was tapped by the end of the year, and he didn't play well the last few games. But I will say I think that he'll turn it around and he'll have a really good season. I just think that right now he's a little out of sorts. And again, we're 2 preseason games and 2 early season, regular season games in. We shouldn't draw too many huge conclusions about this team. But I do think that the track record is going to play out for Race positively.
For me, Tamar played better both games. He improved overall. Still has a long way to go defensively for me.
Yeah.
There are times he gets beat off the dribble or position or in position. But yes, we do need to hit him shots. And Andy, Race again hasn't played totally like Race has with dominating numbers. 14 points, 12 rebounds, 97 blocks, 47 dives on the floor. Those things, right? He hasn't got there yet. But I tend to agree a little bit with Ryan that it'll be there. And we really want it to be there when it's needed, not maybe against some opponents like that. But your thoughts on Race?
Yeah, this is probably going to sound like excuse making for him, which is not really intended to be. But I do think with some of these lesser teams that they're playing, I think the matchup becomes a little bit difficult for him. Most of these teams don't have a second big guy, and so he ends up defending a lot smaller players, maybe putting himself in a position that he's less comfortable in. And obviously we've seen him over the years be able to step out and switch on the guys and defend, but it is a little bit different. So I'm curious to see when you go and play, a team like Xavier, a team like North Carolina, some of those where there's, even if it's more of a stretch 4 guy, I just think from a size and quickness perspective, maybe a little bit better matchup for him. That helps a little bit, because that's where I think it's been most evident. He let some guys drive by him tonight. I don't know if it's fair to say that's totally because of their, body type and playing style and things like that is really part of it. But I that's one thing I'm curious to see as we play some different competition. What does that look like? And does he look a little bit more like himself? And,
he's been guarding pure perimeter guys.
Right.
Yeah. So,
and they're switching a lot now defensively, and they're switching sometimes 1 through 5. And so your bigs are on that. And I think that's a good strategy to get that on film and see what you like about it and what you don't like about it in these games. But I think that's a very good find about guarding the smaller guys, and it makes him, look like he's not having a good night defensively. But we're sure that he's going to be there at some time. But coming up here on the Assembly Call, we hand out our game balls, our Hoosier Hustle Award, and discuss any lingering questions or two. And then we look ahead to Indiana's upcoming opponent. That's all next here on the Assembly Call. So stick with us.
Hey, this is Deron Davis. And what's the only thing better than dominating a Duke big man in the post? Is celebrating with friends afterwards. Join Gerard, Andy, Ryan, and Coach on the Assembly Hall call after every IU basketball game. Go Hoosiers.
You're listening to the Assembly Call IU post-game show. Catch us live immediately following every IU basketball game, plus every Thursday night at our website, assemblycall.com. Also, make sure you sign up for our free IU Hoops email newsletter. Over 9,000 of your fellow IU fans have subscribed. To do so, join for free today at join.assemblycall.com. That's join.assemblycall.com.
Gerard never gets old.
Our final segment tonight is brought to you by a new sponsor, True Blood Real Estate. Jim Trueblood is a longtime friend of Jared's or Gerard's and the founder and owner of True Blood Real Estate, where he's been helping people in Indiana buy and sell property since 2006. And starting this season, True Blood Real Estate is the exclusive and official real estate partner of IU Athletics, with a team of talented agents to serve you in Bloomington and throughout Indiana. If you're looking to buy or sell estate in Indiana, you need to experience the True Blood advantage. Go to trueblood.com to learn more. That's trueblood.com, and tell them the Assembly Call sent you. All right, I'm the coach, Brian Tonsoni, here with the Ryan Phillips and Andy Bottoms. We're breaking down Indiana's 101-49 victory over Bethune Cookman. It's now time for our game balls. And, Andy, we'll send it to you first. Who gets your game ball?
A lot of good potential choices. I'm going to go with Trace. I mean, 21 points on 9 of 10 shooting, was perfect from the free throw line, had those 6 offensive rebounds. I thought some of that really set the tone early for what IU was able to do. While Bethune Cookman was in that zone, anytime that IU missed, he seemed like he was right there to clean it up. So I'll go with him, I guess, just as the, kind of by far the leading scorer and an overall solid performance. But I think there's a lot of different directions you could potentially go with this one.
Ryan, your game ball.
My heart says give it to Miller Kopp because he had a really nice game and it was really nice to see, but that's grading on a curve. It's Trace Jackson Davis, 21 points in 21 minutes, 6 rebounds. As Andy said, it was great. Those offensive rebounds are fantastic. He also had 2 assists, and he was 9 of 10 from the field, 3 of 3 from the free throw line. He was the best player on the court. You got to give it to Trace.
I'm going to make it 3 for TJD, and I'm going to just add a little bit that I thought he came out with a lot of emotion. I thought the first 2 possessions, the way he rebounded the basketball, showed that he was locked in. And you want your best player to be that leader, to be that hardest worker in practice, to be that hardest worker in a game. And he needs to be on point. And that's a lot of pressure. We talk about it all the time. And he's had times where foul trouble or other things, he's kind of floated away for segments of games. And if he wants to achieve his personal goals and team goals, he can't do that. And he didn't do that tonight. He came out against an opponent where he knew that he was probably going to have an easy time, and Indiana was, but he played against the game tonight. He wanted to play the game the right way, and I think it shows in his statistics, and I think those opening 2 minutes got Indiana off to a 7-0 start, and then they had a little lull, but, man, they would have been in a deeper lull, I think, if he hadn't really gotten after it. Okay, and now –
Hi, this is native Hoosier Anthony Leo. I pride myself on hustling every second I'm on the court, so it is an honor to present this episode's Hoosier Hustle Award, sponsored by our friends at Evansville Security Services. Based in the hometown of IU legend Calvert Chaney, Evansville Security Services provides off-duty police officers to businesses and individuals throughout Indiana. Their goal is to provide whatever level of safety and protection you're looking for. And just like hustle can't be measured by stats, but is often the difference between winning and losing, the prevention of bad outcomes can't be adequately measured either, but it can still have a huge impact on your bottom line and peace of mind. So let Evansville Security Services help you prevent a bad outcome today. Go to evansvillesecurityservices.com to learn more. That's evansvillesecurityservices.com.
All right, I think there's a lot of choices here tonight, fellas, for the Hoosier Hustle Award. I'm going to start, and I'm going to throw out Xavier Johnson because of his defensive pressure and his intensity that he played with, getting the rebounds, the number of 6 assists. You know, he's going to have some Xavier moments where he takes some shots or turns the ball over in certain ways. But I really think that that young man wants to win and wants to do things the right way. And I thought there were times today where he was just dominant defensively, especially after the first half and his first run. He got back in. And I think that's something that he can bring on a consistent basis. And when he's scoring and doing some other things, that's great. But when he's not, he can do these things like get 6 assists and really lead, I think, a defensive effort after that surge from the second unit. So Xavier gets my choice for Hoosier Hustle. We'll come to you, Ryan.
I got Jordan Geronimo. I really liked how active he was defensively. I think offensively, he's just kind of always looking to do something crazy. He almost had yet another spectacular dunk and got fouled, made both his free throws, which is nice to see from Jordan. Usually last year it was the first one won't be long, and then you make the second. You make the adjustment, make the second one. But 11 points, 4 of 5 shooting, hit a trail 3, which was really nice to see. 2 of 2 from the free throw line, 4 rebounds, 1 offensive, and 2 steals. And and that was all in 12 minutes. You know, I mean, so he's a ball of activity and energy when he's out there. And I thought he was great tonight. I think he could have gotten it, in the first game. I thought he was worthy of it too. So I really liked what I saw from Jordan tonight from an energy and hustle perspective.
Andy, who gets your Hoosier Hustle Award?
Both compelling arguments. I actually thought about going with Trey Galloway, but Geronimo was the first guy that popped to mind, so I'm gonna stick with that. I think with him, and even to a certain extent, I think this is a point that we tried to make earlier about the team. I think you are starting to see already guys settle into what their roles are, and he really seems to these last couple of games have embraced what IU needs him to do in order for them to be successful coming off the bench. Just tons of energy, really extended things defensively, wreaked some havoc there. I will say, like I said, Galloway was another one that I thought of. I feel like there was a play, and I hope I'm not, because I didn't make notes about this specifically, so I could be confusing it with the prior game. But a play, I think, after a turnover, really hustled back to contest a shot in a game where you're up by a significant portion. That's not necessarily something that that everybody may feel compelled to do. So I thought he had some really good hustle moments. And Coach, your point about Xavier Johnson's on-ball defense was incredibly disruptive early in the game. So and really throughout, thought he set the tone on that end of the floor and set the tone for some of those turnovers and really forced Bethune Cookman into so many. They had hardly any assists in contrast to what IU had, and so much of that was IU just making them uncomfortable, not letting them get inside the 3-point line. And then the shot clock's running down, and somebody's got to try to just go one-on-one and make a shot. And IU, for the most part, had the better one-on-one defenders.
Yeah, I have no problem with Geronimo. He was, when I initially thought about this, I was thinking Renew and Geronimo for what I said in the banner moment. I thought they came in and really cut hard offensively, did some things on the break. And so, Geronimo gets our Hoosier Hustle Award tonight. I think he's very deserving. So now it's time for a lingering question. If you have a question in the chat mob, throw it in. If we see it, we'll try to answer it. I think the only lingering question now is Indiana's taking care of business in its exhibition games and its opening games against inferior opponents. How does that transition to a first road game at a hostile place in Cincinnati against Xavier? That'll be the lingering question. I think it's somewhat answered for me in that the style of play, the depth of play, the roster improvements. Indiana's going to lose some games, but I think it's set up for the long haul to have a very successful season. So while we always want wins every game, and including that Xavier game, I'm not sure that's really a lingering question, but we gotta see it against the tougher opponents because the Big Ten's going to be loaded. Anything, Andy, that you have still lingering on your mind?
Yeah, that was essentially it for me. It's phrased maybe slightly differently is how does what we've seen translate into a road environment against a much better team than what they've played so far? I think there's a lot of things that they're doing well that travel. Defense travels, that gets mentioned a lot. I think having multiple playmakers is going to be really important. And for against the Xavier team, who plays a couple big guys in Jack Nungy, who used to be at Iowa, and Zach Fremantle. I think we go back to the race conversation. I think there's a more clear matchup for a guy like him in a game like that, but really one where IU's big guys are going to have to play well. They're going to be tested on the defensive end for sure to be able to step out and make plays there. So that's the biggest part. You're not really some years you kind of ratchet up the competition slowly at home till you play somebody better. In this case, the competition ratchets up and you hit the road for the first time. But also a great opportunity to really build on the confidence that this team should have by this point in the season. You're able to go into the Cintas Center, which is a tough place to play against the team picked in the upper quartile of the Big East, some would say, and you get able to get that win. I think you can really give yourself a boost heading into the rest of the season.
Michael Cummings has a good question in there too, and I think only time will tell, but is the rotation going to stay at 9, which looks like it is right now? You saw CJ Gunn and you saw Caleb Banks do some things. Do they develop in the back half? Can they get some run? Does he try to extend that? Usually you try to taper it down by the end of the season. So we talk a lot about the depth, Ryan. Do you think that any of those guys get some extended run without injuries?
It doesn't seem like that. It will. I'm sure those guys will get playing time because something will happen. As you said, injuries, poor form, whatever, foul trouble. Maybe they get in, but I don't think they're going to be regularly in the rotation. I think they would be by now if they were, if that was part of the plan. Now, I think both will have excellent careers at Indiana, Banks and Gunn, and I think that they'll be key members of next year's team because a lot of guys are going to be gone after that. I mean, enjoy this team while you got it, guys, because a lot of these guys aren't going to be here next year because of whether it's a graduate. We've got a lot of older guys, and Jalen Hood-Schifino, the NBA scouts are drooling after him already. If he could shoot threes, he'd be a top 10 pick, I think. And he can't right now, so he's probably going to drop a little in the draft, but he's going to be a first-round pick, and scouts love him. So enjoy him while he's here and enjoy the rest of these guys. But those guys deep, it's a good thing they're getting some run because, next year they're going to be key parts of the team. And so I would say, no, I think it's going to stay at 9. I think it's going to stay where it is, 9-ish. And yeah, I really think that it's a good match. I think it's a good, group in that sense. But I just can't see it expanding.
Andy, thoughts on that?
Barring, I think barring an injury, that becomes difficult. What we talked about, we really liked about what they're doing so far, is that you're keeping one of X and Jalen Hood-Schifino on the floor. If you really want to go 10 deep, you almost have to move away from that. Or you're really just trying to shoehorn somebody in someplace else and kind of getting away from these different units and rotations that at least through, 2 exhibition games and 2 regular season games seems to be working well. So I think because that feels like it would have to be the trade-off, that makes it seem less likely to me.
Yeah, I kind of like 8 or 9, to be honest with you. And right now it's 9, and you can't pare that down, I don't think. I think the 9 that are playing are essential. I like having both point guards out there. I think Galloway and Tamar can be secondary ball handlers. I don't know that I am interested in having them being a primary ball handler out there in a second unit, because then you have to take both X and Hood-Schifino out. Good question, Michael. We appreciate that. We appreciate everyone listening. Over 500 people on a late night against Bethune Cookman. That's why we do what we do. So thank you for your participation and in the chat mob and listening. So next week or tomorrow for the community, the paid community. If you remember the paid community, I will be interviewing Mike DeCourcy for Banner Friday. We're going to get that going, but you got to be a member of the community to participate in that. We have AC Radio next Thursday, which will really be previewing the Xavier game on Friday of next week, so 8 days in between games. And IU travels in their first game to Xavier on Friday. And Andy, you and I are going to be together in Cincinnati, not at the game, but we do have something planned. Want to share with everyone who might be in that area what we plan on doing?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Alumni Association here reached out about doing an event at Mad Tree, the brewery, which is not too terribly far from Xavier. So I believe the start time for it is 4:30 on Friday. So Coach and I will be there, have a couple beers, answer some questions. I think they just want to try to do some kind of Q&A. I'm really letting them figure out the logistics of all that, but we'll just show up and have a good time. And so for those who are local, even if you're going to the game, feel free to stop by before you head out. And then otherwise, our intention at this point, given that tickets are a pretty hot commodity around here, is to watch the game from there and go from there. So looking forward to it. It's a good location and should be a good time. I'm glad Coach and Amy are coming down to join us.
And I'm looking forward to the hospitality of the Bottoms, but I'm afraid I'm going to have a mediocre drive to Cincinnati because Jay Horry is going to be in the car. And so, the
Big
3 hours.
mistake.
Yeah, I was looking forward to the whole drive going with Mrs. Tonsoni, and now Jay's going to be in the back seat. And if I have to stop the vehicle and correct him, I'm going to have
I can almost assure you that you'll be spending some time listening to the new Taylor Swift album on your way if Jay's going to be with you. So
yeah, on repeat for 3 hours.
Yeah,
exactly. So looking forward to meeting anyone in the Cincinnati area, or if you're traveling from outside the Cincinnati area, find Mad Tree, come and have a drink with us, and we'd like to meet you. So you're listening to the Assembly Call IU postgame show. Remember to check out our friends at Home Field Apparel. Use the promo code HOME at checkout to get 15% off your first order. Okay, guys, it's time for last call. Ryan, your thoughts here this evening on Indiana basketball's second victory of the year.
Yeah, two things. Just they're really fun, guys. And so if you're watching this team and having fun, just, kind of bask in it a little and enjoy it. The combination of, the veterans who have come back and improved and have been good for a while, but are better, like TJD, Race, Xavier Johnson, and these young guys who are so skilled and so talented. And let's be real, Malik Renew would be starting almost anywhere else in the country. And he's on your second unit because you've got two studs returning, two seniors. So, yeah, just enjoy what we're seeing. They're going to lose some games. They're going to probably drop a couple games and here or there that they should win, and they're going to win some that maybe we thought that they couldn't take down. But enjoy what you're watching because this is fun basketball. We haven't had that in a while. And these guys are playing, they're insanely talented. They're playing very hard and very fast, defensively especially. They're just there. They're everywhere they need to be. And they're a lot of fun. And just enjoy it. They're going to play Xavier next Friday. I expect it to be a good game. Either way that goes, it's, as Andy said, it's a tough place to play, but either way that one goes, it should be fun to watch. And that's something we haven't had in a long time. So enjoy it while it's here, guys.
Andy.
Yeah, I think you got pretty much everything you could hope for out of these first couple of games. Certainly expected to win them going in, but I think the ability to get a lot of guys playing time, see a lot of shots go in, see some improvement from game to game, and even see the team be able to play in some different ways and really asserted themselves inside in the first game and shot the three well tonight. So a lot of reasons to be excited about this team as we move forward. Like Ryan said, there will be some bumps along the way. I have no doubt about that, but I think one of those where after these last handful of seasons, everybody's tempted to keep the team at arm's length a little bit, but certainly feels like one that everybody should be really excited about. Should be a fun team to watch, play an enjoyable style of basketball, and play tough on the defensive end. I think those are the kinds of things that IU fans typically respond well to, and certainly off to a good start. Got maybe in some ways nice to have a little bit of time to get ready for Xavier. They'll play another couple games between now and then, so you've at least got a chance to maybe get a little more film on them under Sean Miller with the current set of personnel. That might help a bit as well as you look ahead to the scout for that game. But exciting start to the season, and looking forward to previewing the Xavier game a bit next week and seeing if they can get a big road win, which, we talk about that NC State game a lot, so many years ago, but this could be maybe similar to that if they're able to come and get that, really a chance to boost their confidence and serve as a springboard heading into the rest of the non-conference.
A defensive-minded program that's transitioning to modern basketball. It sums up what both of you guys are saying and what I'm enjoying about this team. And I will second everything that both of you guys said. Enjoy this team. It's headed in a huge direction upward and should be enjoyable. But that's going to do it for us this evening. If you want to see us do the show live and be part of the live chat, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/assemblycall.com. And don't forget to join assemblycall.com for our free email newsletter. Special thanks to Bob Thompson for the music you hear in the show. Special thanks to John Ringer of rigdesign.com for designing our logo. And thank you for listening. We'll be back to talk IU hoops again with you next week on Thursday. Until then.
Take it from me, Juwan Morgan. Keep your elbows in, eyes on the rim, and go Hoosiers.
Thank you. Thanks for coming out.
I'm out of shape. I'm a little slow on the buttons. Played the music tonight when we we're supposed to play it on Assembly Thursday night. Got to get back in game shape.
Yeah, well, it is Thursday night, so it's an Assembly Call radio night, but it's a post-game show.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I get to
post-game show.
Yeah, post-game show, no music.
No music.
Well,
I did remember no inner conversations in between segments. I did remember that. So
yeah,
fun night. Fun night.
It was,
because when you take care of business the way you're supposed to, and you don't leave huge lingering questions going forward. I mean, so many teams. There's so many bye games that have been upsets already. So Indiana's not there. That's a good thing.
Yeah,
absolutely,
sure.
Absolutely. All right,
guys.
Sounds good.
That should be fun on Friday. I was not aware of this. That'll be fun. Take pictures, video. Have somebody video it. Take pictures. We'll like to see.
Yep, looking forward to it.
Should be a good time.
All right.
All right, everybody. We'll see you.
All right. See you guys next week.